Okay, so here we go. What I'm going to be covering over the next few minutes is what is a personal statement, what you need to include, application deadlines, how to write your personal statement, and what to avoid when writing your personal statement. I suppose the first thing really, and it's very, very basic, but sometimes people ask questions like, what is a personal statement? Is it the same as a supporting statement? Yes is the answer. And it's basically you writing a letter to the course director and telling them why you want to become part of, their course. So it's a really, really important part of your application. They will be reading it, and it really is an opportunity for you to kind of get some personality across and expand upon your CV or your application form. And it's a chance for a course director to find out about you. And I suppose the thing is, writing is a skill, as you all know, from writing essays, from doing projects, from doing CVs. Sometimes it takes several drafts or several attempts before you're actually happy with what you've written. So it is about you, and it's you telling your story and them hopefully being interested in what you have to offer. Okay, so what should you include in your personal statement? Some universities, depending on where you're applying, they will give very clear guidance on exactly what it is they want you to include in your personal statement. If that's the case, it really is, it makes it a lot easier for you because you're just following the instructions. So make sure you follow them carefully. Others may just say to you, please attach, or add in, the following box, any other information. So they're not giving you as much guidance. But if that's the case, you could structure your statement on the following 5 areas. So again, a blank piece of paper, a heading for each area, write down whatever comes to mind, and then you need to kind of fine tune it. So why you want to study this particular course, why you want to study at this institution, why they should select you, specific skills you have that relate to the course, and explain how the course relates to your career plans. So those 5 areas, again, it needs to be pretty short. So it might be 500 words, it might be less. Sometimes they don't give you a word count, but you still need to make it pretty short because they're not going to read pages and pages of a supporting statement. So short and sweet, to the point, and covering these 5 areas. So number 1, why do you want to study this particular course? Okay, so obviously you need to do your research into the course, and then you need to think about, okay, how did I become interested in this area in the first place? Was I at school? Was it through college? Specific modules I was studying? Maybe through my FYP, other research that I did? What do I enjoy about this subject area? And do you have any relevant work experience, co-op, voluntary activities that inspired you to learn more about the subject? So you need to do your research on the course, and you need to kind of let them know why this particular course, not kind of not some kind of general explanation of why you've always loved psychology, for example, but it needs to be about this particular course. So you need to do your research on this particular course. Then you need to think about this particular institution. So again, it's all about research before you ever put pen to paper. You're doing your research. So do you know anything about this course? Are there academics teaching on this course in the field that you're interested in? Mention if you've read about them. Are there any academics there? Again, it could be a research master's, it could be a taught master's. Usually for every postgraduate programme, they will have kind of the name of the course director, they'll have other kind of profiles of people in the department. So do your research on who's teaching. Again, why this particular institution, the right course content and structure. Some may offer placements, some may not, some may offer specific modules that you might be interested in. How the specific institution will provide a contrast to where you did your undergraduate degree. Obviously, I'm assuming that some of you here, if you're studying UL, you'll also be applying to UL, so that's not going to apply there. But again, just what is it about this institution? UL, for example, the library, it's a state-of-the-art library, so you might want to mention that. Again, it could be particular academics. So why this course? Why this college? Excuse me a second. I'll just turn this off on silent. Okay, so why the course? Why the college? Next thing is why you? Okay, so this section is like, your academic strengths and interests, any specific grades that you've achieved, academic prizes or bursaries, specific work experience. It could be co-op, it could be volunteering experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be paid experience. Your FYP, any research activities that you've been involved with, and any extracurricular activities which demonstrate an interest in the area. So again, why you? Your skills, your past experience, relevant modules, relevant research. Okay, so specific skills that relate to the course. So again, I work a lot with psychology students, so I would say things like, SPSS, research methods, data analysis. Again, you need to think about specific skills that you've had. Again, if it's a history master's, if it's an English master's, you need to think about the specific skills that you have that relate to the content of the postgrad. If it's a science postgrad or an engineering postgrad, any relevant scientific techniques or skills that you have as well. So make sure you spell it out to them, because you can't assume that they will be familiar with your undergraduate course. So you really need to make it clear about specific skills that are relevant. If it's a languages postgrad, again, the competence, the level of the language that you have, be very kind of clear about, your expertise in that area. And again, I suppose, if you're applying for a postgraduate course, the likelihood is that you will be doing some kind of a thesis, which is, it's going to be bigger than your FYP. So again, any research skills, any research methods, any particular research interests that you have, mention that as well. Usually then you would kind of give a brief explanation. You don't exactly have to know what it is you want to do down the line, but I suppose it just shows that you've kind of thought about this course, where it's going to take you and how it fits into any career plans. So you need to kind of add something about how it will give you the necessary skills to prepare you for a certain career. There are some postgraduate programs that actually, they are specifically designed to qualify you in a certain area, like teaching, nursing, speech and language therapy, for example. So you have to do them. Other ones, you won't necessarily be a qualified professional at the end of them, but they will be, they will give you the skills to kind of enter a specific career area. So you need to explain how the course fits into your career plans. So they're kind of the 5 areas that you need to be writing about. And again, you may need to kind of write it several times before you're happy with the final draft. Okay, application deadlines. I suppose the thing to say about that is every course has a different application deadline. So you really need to do your research again on when the closing dates are, what the application process is. So you need to check the websites, or you need to check the particular departments. Ourselves in the career service, we don't know what the specific deadlines are. Some of them are very early, some of them will take rolling applications throughout the summer. So you really need to go back to the department and check what is the deadline. So as I said, some of them will take rolling applications until they have all their places filled. Some of them will not take late applications. For those deadlines are probably gone already at this stage, to be honest. They could have been in January, February, so it's probably too late for them, but you just need to know when the application deadlines are. Okay, so you've done your research, you've kind of thought about why this institution, mention the specific skills that you have, what your career plans are, you've looked at the application deadline. Now it's coming to actually writing your personal statement. You need to be kind of very, very clear about how you write this, okay? So you're not going to write it in one huge block of text. You're probably going to divide it into 5 different paragraphs as well. And it needs to read well, it needs to look well. So here's kind of a sample outline that you could use. So section number 1, you introduce yourself and why you've chosen this particular course. So you need to mention that immediately. Section 2, your relevant background, your academic qualifications, relevant projects, relevant modules. Section 3, personal qualities and achievements that make you suitable. So again, that could be relevant work experience. It could be, why your interest in the area. How is this interest developed? Why have you kind of included, this area in your FYP? Did you do extremely well in some modules? Then you're going to kind of talk about any relevant experience you have, if you have it. Obviously, for some postgrads, you won't necessarily have had relevant work experience, but if you do, and again, if it's unpaid as well as paid, absolutely include that. Talk about what you learned from the experience. And then Section 5 really is bringing it all together, summarising your interest in the course, and explaining your career interest in the area and how this course will help you in your future career. So 5 sections. You may take several drafts, but this is really what you need to be including. And it needs to be an essay format. You can use bullet points, but I suppose the writing part is the very, very last part, the final part, the icing on the cake. I suppose what you need to do then, when you've written your personal statement, you need to kind of think about, how does it look? Okay, so if somebody's looking at this, if a course director is looking at this, is it going to look good? Does it look pleasant to the eye? Is it divided into paragraphs? And then how does it sound? So remember, this is you, this is your voice. This is you explaining to somebody why you would like them to kind of consider your application. So look at your paragraphs and sentences. You don't need to include everything. Again, I suppose every course director for a level 9 postgraduate course, they expect you to have pretty highly developed written communication skills. So again, this statement is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of your work. So you need to make sure that it's very, very impressive. And again, if it's a very, very competitive course, the personal statement usually is the thing that separates you from other candidates as well. So you need to make sure that it sounds good, that it reads well, that grammar, punctuation, everything about this looks good, sounds good, and makes a good impression. Because it's a personal statement, absolutely, it's I, it's me, so it's very, very personal. Read it out loud, I suppose. That's the main thing that I would say as well. Read it out loud to somebody, get somebody else to read it so they can actually hear your voice. What does your voice sound like when it's written down? So make sure you read it out to yourself, or you get somebody else to read it out as well, to see how it flows and how does it sound to somebody else's ear. Spelling and grammar, I suppose that's the number one kind of mistake that so many people make. We see it all the time, and sometimes, your spell checker, it's not going to pick it up. So just even a couple of examples there. Great communication skills, your spell checker will not pick that up. I hope I will hear from you soon. Very, very common spelling mistakes. So again, the spell checker may not necessarily pick up everything, so get somebody else to have a look at it, because I think by the time you've actually finished writing your several drafts and it's ready to go, it's very difficult to see the wood from the trees sometimes. So check your spelling and grammar and get somebody else to have a read as well. Okay, usually this isn't necessarily part of the supporting statement, but it probably will be part of your application. So you need to add 1 or 2, maybe sometimes 3, it depends on the course. You need to include referees. For a postgraduate course, at least one of them should be, a former lecturer, tutor, supervisor from a relevant subject area. I know that's quite difficult sometimes, especially for students who've been studying business, because you have such large classes. But if you can, try and get one from somebody who knows you. You need to ask their permission beforehand. You don't necessarily need to ask them to write you a reference unless you've been specifically asked to provide a written reference. But you do need to ask them, will they be a referee for you? Hopefully they'll say yes. Again, don't assume that just because you've been in their class for the last year or 4 years that they'll know you well. So ask the permission, try and have a chat with them beforehand, or send them an email, tell them what you're applying for, and give them a copy of your CV and your supporting statement as well. Okay, so at least then they'll have some background information on you. Most important thing though, I suppose, is to ask them for their permission. Okay, what to avoid in your personal statement. Cliches. I think sometimes when students are writing a personal statement, the language is, it's full of cliches, it's very flowery, it's full of flattery, and I would say if it's not how you would speak to somebody in daily life, leave it out. It's not going to impress anybody. So really, this is about your voice. It's about being as direct as possible. It's showing that you've done your research. It's about being clear. It's about being concise, and it's about being you. So again, just be careful when you're writing it. You don't use cliches. Example 2 there. In my work experience, I learned to communicate effectively with children, which is an important skill in teaching. That's obvious. You don't need to state the obvious. Again, flattery, that happens a lot. It would be an honour, to study at your world-renowned university. They might not particularly like their job. So again, it's kind of a meaningless statement. Leave that out. And sweeping or unsupported claims or statements. Give specific examples. That's all you need to do. So less is more sometimes, absolutely. Okay, stilted vocabulary. As I said, try and use the language that you would use in daily life. I suppose it's a little bit more formal, which means it's just more structured, really. So it's not going to be very, very informal, but you are going to structure what it is you want to say to them. I've been speaking to students recently who didn't do so well in their final exams, but again, if you really want to kind of get a place on a course, and a personal statement is going to have a big impact on whether you're successful or not. If you didn't do so well in some subjects, focus on the subjects that you did extremely well in, and give them every reason to accept you. Finally, I suppose anything that's irrelevant, don't include it. You need to kind of think about, okay, is this of relevance to the person who's reading my statement? If not, leave it out. Okay, so no negative comments, no irrelevant information, and no stilted vocabulary. Okay, to summarise, number 1, you need to tailor it to your subject, showing your understanding of the course and your relevant interests. So before you can actually write your statement, you need to research the skills and qualities the courses you're applying to require, and then you need to show how you have them. Don't leave it to the last minute. I think writing a personal statement, it definitely takes time. It's easy to see when somebody's taken time to think about why them, why the course, what is it about them that makes them, of interest to the course director. So take your time, do several drafts, share it with others to get some feedback from them. Absolutely check your spelling and grammar, and then I suppose really you need to keep a copy of what you've written. If you're invited to an interview, they will refer to it. Can we help? I suppose that's what we're here for. That's what we say at every session. We're here Monday to Friday, all during the summer. If any of you are applying for postgrad courses at the moment and you need to get some feedback, objective feedback, we'd be delighted to review your personal statement. So again, you can make an appointment through Careers Connect, and we would be happy to have a look at your personal statement and to give you some feedback before you actually send it off. Thank you very much. That was short, 20 minutes. Anybody